All right, so in this video, I'm going to be showing you how I edit my film photos. Now, what we have on the screen here is a collection of images from 2019. It was a trip to Iceland with some friends, rented an RV, went around the coast, did a big loop of the country. I shot about 35 rolls, mostly Kodak film, well, all Kodak film except one roll of HP5. We've got some C41 and we've also got some black and white, as well as some slide film. So most of the time the weather was pretty overcast and rainy, which leads to underexposure with film, or it can lead to underexposure with film. I like underexposing my photos, and overcast is great. It gets me the look I want. Really lends itself to dark and moody looks. So if you're looking for a bright and airy look, you probably won't like this video. But here, let's get started. And let's just pick a roll of color. All right, so first things first, get that horizon line. Yeah, straight enough. And then I'm just going to pop the exposure a little bit and take the black point down. Back it off just a little. And then I'm going to boost clarity a little and bump up dehaze. When I edit film, I pretty much do the same edit to every single image. I don't know if it's the way I'm shooting or if it is, just style preferences. But that's kind of, I know what I like and I've dialed in what I like. I'm going to save the vignette till later on this one. Okay, so going through this image, I've just touched the exposure, the blacks, vibrant saturation I've boosted. I generally add about 15 points of sharpening, and then I'll usually add a little bit of vignette, but I'll do that last, just once I have everything in place. So I'm just going to double check that line, and then I'm actually going to back off the black point just a little bit. I'm going to zoom in and I'm just going to really watch the shadows here. And I'm going to go into the tone curve and I'm going to grab the shadows in the red channel and just tuck those and do the same thing down the line. Now I didn't go quite all the way and I'm backing off the red just to match what I did with the green. So if you can see, they're about the same distance away right there. And then the blue channel, I'm just going to tuck in just a little bit, probably about there. And I'm going to get a little bit closer. The shadows are just feeling a little too green. All right, so just by doing the tone curve shadows, I'm going to toggle that. Going in and adjusting these shadows on the tone curve, you're going to fix about 90% of your underexposure. That's literally all it takes. Next, let me bump up the whites on this. Too far. Somewhere about there maybe. And then if I pull those highlights down, gives a little bit of a different feel. There's not too much highlight detail going on, so I'm not going to pull those way back. but I do like the more subdued for this particular image. And then I'm going to hit the HSL and playing with the orange channel. It doesn't really do much. We get a little bit more detail, or not detail, but a little bit more change out of the yellow. So I'm just going to come in. Maybe about 30 points there. And then green. I could take these a little bit more yellow, but I kind of like them going towards the blues. Typically, I'll take my blue channel a little more towards aqua, never more than 10 points. That's just what I've settled on. And then luminance. I'm going to pop that grass just a little bit, give it a little bit more right there. And then greens. Now, normally I wouldn't pop my greens too much, but because there's a lot of shadow play right here, I think that lifting them just a little bit gives a little bit more of a tracing outline of this. And then let me play with the shadows. Typically I'll lift the shadows and then I'll vignette the image. Do like where the contrast is at. Maybe about 15 points. And now for the temperature. Just want to see what it looks like a little desaturated. And this is a roll of Portra 400 shot on a Pentax 6.7. So here's a little before and after. Really quick, easy adjustments, nothing too major. And then let me see about vignette. 5 feels like too much, so I'm just going to take that to maybe 2 or 3. Probably about there. Now, I do like my images to sit cooler opposed to warmer. And underexposing your film as well as shooting in overcast does lend itself to cooler temps within the photo. So if I wanted a warmer image, I would overexpose, getting that brighter, warmer feel, and then under and cold. So just one last look there. All right, so I'm just going to add that to the quick collection so I can save it for later. And then let's grab an image from another roll. All right, so this one, I'd say off the bat, things are looking pretty good, but I do not like the yellow as much. So before I do that, I'm gonna do some adjustments. I'm gonna get my exposure where I want it, then I'm going to touch color. So really just repeating the same adjustments. It's not looking too bad. And let's see what colors we're working with. A lot of yellow in the scene. Not picking up a lot of blue, but are we picking up aqua? Okay. What is this color? I'm saying this is yellow. Okay. Yellow. A little bit of purple in the sky. And then let's touch the temperature. Oh, okay, this one's a little touchy. So I like this image, but I also hate yellow, and this is feeling very yellow to me. So might desaturate the yellow channel just a little. And then also, what happens if I... Okay, so when I desaturated the yellow, that gets a little purpley. The rocks in the beach river, whatever you want to call it. All right, that's feeling a little bit closer. And let me actually pull back the blacks just a little. I'm going to readjust the curves here just to get the color that I want. A lot of my editing is just back and forth. It works for me. That's how I like doing it. Maybe about there. And then let's go to the vignette. All right, so before and after, my preference leads more towards the image on the right. However, I do feel like with Kodak films, they really do capitalize on the warmth in a scene. So this one has a lot of natural warmth right off the bat. And you could edit this photo closer to the original. I just like my images a little cooler. And this is feeling a little green. A little overkill, so I'm going to pull that back. And then I'm just going to pull those blues. Did I actually make a difference? Okay, so I changed 6 or 7 things, but I led me to the same result. Maybe just a little bit more polished. Then let's see the contrast. So I'm going to bump the contrast and then just lift the shadows because I do like the detail in the rocks here. I think that's nice. All right, so add that one to the quick collection. And then, okay, so we did 2 images from a roll of Portrait 400, both on the Pentax 6.7. Let's do a scene here that's on Portrait 160, and this was shot on my Yashica Mat 124. So a couple different choices to choose from. This is in Reykjavik, their main little city area. So I was playing around with this image earlier, but I'm going to reset it. All right. So overall, I like the lighting. Warmth is good. It is sitting a little green and just flat. So I'm going to pop the exposure just a bit and then placing a white point. Might wait to add the contrast just until after I do the tone curve. All right, so my blue in the tone curve in the shadows is pretty much on the point of clipping right now, but there's a little too much blue in the shadows. And I've already neutraled out the black point here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the shadows here, and then this will give me just a little bit more playroom just to add a little bit of warmth back in. Okay. So there's where it was sitting, and then you might not even be able to tell the difference. Just going to add a point of warmth. All right, now time for the HSL. So now that we've got skin tones involved, I can't go as crazy with the orange and yellow hue just because these guys are going to really be affected. All right, so minor tweak. I'm just going to toggle that on and off. Kind of gets rid of the muddiness, we'll say, on the image. Not where I wanted to be. Okay, so pull that hue back on the blue, and then let me pull down the highlights and just see if I can get out any more detail. All right, so I'm pretty happy where that's at. I am going to bump up the contrast and lift those shadows just a bit more. And then there is your before and after. We got the nice wet street, a little bit of reflection. I do want to add some magenta into this just because it is kind of warm green. All right, so 20 points of magenta, got rid of that green cast. And you could leave that green cast on. I do like it at times, but for this photo, I might say 16 or 17. And then as far as cropping this goes, compositionally, this guy does land in the corner nicely. and this is more or less centered. So I could pull it in a little bit more, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to leave that there. All right, so let's pull a roll from some slide film. If I can navigate Lightroom. All right, so here is the before. Now this is E100 in 35 shot on a Leica M3 with a 50mm lens. So I'm not going to pull my blacks close to clipping. I'm going to pull them just a little bit back to get me started, and then I'm going to jump into the tone curve and play from there, just because there won't be any leeway if I do the edits. If I pull the black point first up here, then when I go in the tone curves, there's not any room to play around and balance out the color of the scene. All right, so I like that. I am going to pop these shadows. Maybe just bump the exposure overall. And then sink those shadows back down just a smidge. Then I'm going to find that white point. Not really a need to subdue the highlights here. All right, so really the only thing the orange channel is affecting is a couple little flowers over here. I'm going to pull that down. And then pulling the yellow slider, you get all these different colors coming out of the greens. So that does feel a little drastic. I'm going to take it about there. And then just to give some contrast with the orange and red, sorry, orange and green, I'm going to take my greens a little bit more towards blue. And then this is our blue channel, and it's really just getting the water, which 10 points there. Now, if I wanted a more pure white in the water, I'll just desaturate the blues. Yeah, a couple points down. So it's still got a little blue tinge to it, which I think is nice, but it is that nice white. And then we're going to add a little bit of sharpening, and the vignette just kind of nicely rounds out the image. Let's see about contrast. All right, so I'm going to bump the contrast, and then I'm going to lift the shadows to balance that. I haven't even touched vibrance and saturation yet. All right, so there is your before and after of this waterfall. I think it looks like a little coffin here. So when I see this image, I think of a coffin fall, whatever that is. All right, so little warm in the yellows. Interesting. I'm going to pull just a little bit of warmth there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we'll add that in. Let's see if we've got another. Let me copy and paste this edit. And Let's take it over to this photo of Taylor. So copy and pasting that edit from the waterfall, pretty straightforward. Just gotta see, feels pretty balanced. I don't really think I need to adjust the crop at all. I will want to go back into the tone curve if you're copying and pasting that and just kind of adjust it, because every image has a little bit different of a black point. And I'm just looking at the shadows and then also at the skin tones here. Maybe about there. All right. Now these greens are feeling a little bit too intense just where the water is saturating the jacket. So I'm going to leave these yellows pretty intense. Orange, I'm just going to take a little bit towards red. And then green, this is where I'm going to change it back and pull it a little bit more yellow. That looks pretty good to me. Now let's see. Sharpening. Yeah, I like the vignette. I'm going to do this photo. Again, copying and pasting the edit. That feels pretty much done. I don't know where it's getting its horizon line, but neither do I. Okay, not too bad. Crop wise, might just cut out that horse there just because it's popping out of the edge. And probably call that good. Just out of curiosity, if I cool it down. Personally, I like the cooler image. So where was I? I was at -3 in temp, and now I'm at -8 with. Let's see. A little too magenta. I feel like on this image, the green cast kind of works for the scene, but I do want to balance that. So I'll just leave that at 20. All right, so there were a couple frames of E100. Let's jump into T-Max. Let's see. I think I may have already edited this one. and just imported the edited file. All right, we'll play around with this one. So this is on T-Max 400, which every time I shoot T-Max, I like it a little bit more than Tri-X. Make sure that's in black and white. This one, there wasn't really much to do on it, which was nice. This person's in it. I could keep them to show scale, which maybe I should. I don't really like them in it. To me, that's just distracting. But I do include it when I take the photos. So what does that tell you? So real light polish on that, pretty simple. Now, say you have, we'll take this image. So this is the same roll of T-Max, very underexposed. Let me just copy and paste that edit I did on this image. So I'm going to get rid of that vignette because it's not needed here. And then don't need to pull back the highlights because there were never any to begin with. So even at a couple stops underexposed, T-Max holds up really well. This was a particularly dark, overcast day mixed with black rock. This is all just pure black rock. This exposure was a little bit better, but for this scene, even with the loss of shadow detail, it does kind of work. I would just maybe tuck the shadows a little bit to leave it balanced. So from that to that, pretty stark difference. And I could even lift the shadows and pull down the black point even more. And that you wouldn't think necessarily is descendant of that. Let me add this one. I don't think I did. So let's see. We've covered Portra 400, E100, T-Max 400. HP5 is going to be pretty much the same thing. This is just copying that T-Max edit. Could pull those shadows really down. I usually don't go past 15, like 15 would be tops in dehaze. Almost every photo I'll add 10 points of dehaze, but anything more than that, and I feel like on film it just starts to deteriorate a little bit. All right, so quick, easy edit. I do like the look of that pretty dark, but that can stay neutraled out. So really not much was done. Added a little bit more contrast to the scene. Now I could go in and dodge and burn spots of grass just to kind of create a trail of light following this taller grass going back, but typically don't. Let's see what else we got. All right, for this last image, I'm going to do some Portrait 160, and this was shot on my K1000. Let me reset this. All right, so I like these little hills back here. Back here, there's not too much going on. I do like the little patches of red right there. So I'm going to split the difference after straightening. Maybe call it about there. These marks on the photo are from water damage. As I was loading the roll of film into my camera, super moist, mist everywhere. Little bit of rain fell down off my hair and landed directly on the film back right before I closed it. So I decided to test it out, see how it goes. That's what it looks like. And I probably will delete those. Not probably will. I will remove those later on. A little bit of sharpening, some vignette. Let's bump the contrast. I'm going to pull those highlights down just because I'd really like the light that's layering over here on the left behind the mountain. A lot of interesting light going on back here. And then let me see what's going on. Not a lot of room to play with. So whatever I'm pulling in is clipping. Now, Portrait 160 being made of magenta and green, the layers, use that to your advantage. You can take this photo more green, you can take it more magenta. Either way, it's going to look good. A little bit of more warmth. I'm going to jump into really make those pop. All right, so there's your before, which I think that looks perfectly just fine as is. This is the more dramatic saturation pumped image, but we'll take it. Then I'm just going to copy and paste that edit and apply it onto this image here. Then I just got to fix the contrast difference. First, I better fix this. Leif Erikson. If I remember right, probably not. Feeling pretty happy with that. Let's see how much he's clipping here. I'm just going to pull these back. Okay. So quick, easy copy and paste. Nothing more needs to be done. I could lift the luminance on the blue here to just get rid of some of that yuckiness. Yeah, maybe just 2 points. 2 clicks, I should say. Add that, and I think I added this one. There you go. All right, let me see what we're doing on time. Okay. Well, that will probably do it for this video. And thank you for watching. Hopefully, watching me edit, maybe you can work past some editing problems at home. Really, it's just with film, there's not a lot you have to do with it. If you get good scans from a lab or doing the scans yourself, you're really putting yourself, the scan is 85% of the legwork there, 90 even. I'd say editing film is really just a polish. And at the end of the day, you can edit things however you want to edit. Whether it's a touch-up or it's a full-blown graphic design project, either way. But hopefully you learned something. If not, then I don't know why I'm here.